All right. Welcome, Dylan, to the show.
Thank you. What's this called? Me with Moise?
Yeah, this is Dylan and Moise. This is the
Yes.
awkward, the awkward lift.
Yes. Okay.
Is lift an English word?
In British English. So I don't
British
consider
English.
that to be legitimate, basically. Yeah.
All right. We're starting off strong here.
No, I would call it elevator. Well, I would remind myself of an elevator pitch. That's what would come to mind in the first place. But if you're asking me about if I had an awkward story in the lift or the elevator, yes. The only thing that comes to mind.
I didn't ask, but now we're here. Let's go.
I thought that's what the teleprompter told me, but anyways. So yeah, I was going for an interview at a talent agency when, I don't know, I feel old now, like 10 years ago, maybe when I was like, early 20s after I graduated college, university. And it was, they called it the Death Star because it was such a massive building. There was like 8 floors. So we were going up to the sports floor. I was going to interview with the sports agent.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was with the HR lady, and HR people are specific type of people, let's say. And then agents are also a little bit different type of people, I would say.
So what kind of agent was this?
So this was to interview. The guy was golf agent, one of them. The other one was like tennis.
Okay.
It wasn't football, soccer, what I work in now, but I wanted to work in sports, so I didn't care exactly where I landed. That was already, it would be very good to be specifically in that department. And then there was the HR lady, me, and then this other agent. He was really hungover. He had his sunglasses on. And then
What time of the day was this?
this is like 9:30 in the morning, probably.
What?
Maximum 11 o'clock, probably not that late.
And he looks like he's coming from the nightclub.
Yeah, with the sunglasses on, etc. And then the HR lady just looking at him like, she like staring
Like
him down
acting
really
it's all-
awkwardly.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then he makes some kind of awkward joke, and then you're told in these situations that, hey, you don't need to fill the awkward silence. So I didn't, of course, because I was in the interview situation, and those don't really have anything to gain from that. And then I found out, I had the interview, didn't get the job. Apparently I wasn't as attractive as the girl. Not as intelligent either, of course, but then he got fired a couple months later, that agent. So
Oh yeah.
it's not that great of a story,
Yeah.
but it's the only one I have.
How many floors were you going up?
This was literally, it's called the Death Star. So it was
yeah.
massive. This was like the top floors. There was like 8 floors. So, that's like probably maybe 30 seconds. That's a pretty like long elevator lift.
Yeah. Just huddling into the corner.
Yeah, just what should I say? Yeah, I'm this guy interviewing. I'm a nobody. And then you just sit there. You're like, yeah, that's like 3 seconds. That's already enough time to be in the situation.
Wow. So you're going for an interview for some sports, not commentating. That's something else.
That's what this is my first time here.
Right, you remember that time? So this interview was for what again?
So my ex-girlfriend was working. Well, no, actually was friends with I met her through a mutual friend. And then one time we were at a party when I was in college, and I met randomly this guy who was working at this agency. We call it like the mail room. So when you start, you're literally sifting the mail. That's like when people start in talent agencies. And then he said, yeah, there's this new full-time internship position open for 3 months. So I said, yeah, I've always wanted to be a football agent since I was 11 years old. This is my goal. I'm very motivated by this. And he said, yeah, man, just apply if you want. So I did. And the lady really liked me, the HR, in the pre-screening interview. So she said, okay, yeah, let's try have you interview with sports. So I did. In the end, I got hired in motion picture, lit, and talent. So those are like writers, actors, directors, etc., agents. But
same agent for all these things, or same agents,
same agency, but they have hundreds of agents and thousands of clients. So this is the same agency that represents George Clooney. They have a partnership to represent Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, etc. So it's the biggest talent agency in the world. in the end, I did a lot of menial small tasks for literature and motion picture talent
Yeah.
agents. Yeah.
When you say football, do you talk? What kind of football do you talk about?
The one you pay with your feet.
The,
Yeah. Not
the
soccer.
real football.
Or yes, soccer, not American football. Yes.
So where did you grow up again?
Well, my mom's French and my dad's American, but
Yeah.
I was born in London and then I lived in Paris for 2 years.
Oh yeah.
No, sorry, from 2 to 6, and went to a bilingual school. French was my first language, and then I moved to Connecticut outside New York City. Most of my life, I lived there, but I went to a boarding school in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
This is like a prestigious boarding school where the Rockefellers went to, but I knew about it because my grandfather and uncle went there. And then I studied abroad in France in Rennes for a year in high school to kind of relearn my French, and also because honestly I didn't like the people at my boarding school, their mentality, their attitude. Then I came back, graduated, I went to UCLA, and then I lived there for 7 years in LA, and then I moved to Liverpool, did an MBA at the University of Liverpool, specialized in the football business, and then I moved to Barcelona 4 years ago.
So you spent your first years in Europe, right?
Yeah.
So you got to so that's where you got the football, the dream about football, right? Would you get that in America? You're not exposed to.
Well, to be
European
honest, I didn't even
football,
get it from my French side. No one. I heard my uncle. I spoke to him after the World Cup final, the most recent one, and he said, "Yeah, I heard it on the radio." I'm like, "You heard this on the radio? You heard the World Cup final on the radio for your own country? Are you crazy? Like, that's insane to me. You know, that should be the closest part of my family. I think my grandfather, my maternal one, so my mom's father, was probably maybe the biggest influence on me because he really loved football. My grandmother still to this day, after he passed away, watches football because it's like a way of remembering him because he passed away when I was very young. So maybe I got some influence there, but no one on both sides of my family likes football. Like no one. My mom kind of watches it, but she doesn't really care. So I'm like an alien in comparison to my family. It's not like someone turned me onto it really. Maybe my grandfather that I'm thinking of it.
So yeah, today we're gonna speak about football. I don't know anything about football besides that I'm afraid of the ball. It's a trauma from childhood. I was a goalkeeper, and if I would have, it was the first time my mom went with me when one of my parents went with me to a sports event. It was my mom because my parents were separated, and she, I was a goalkeeper. I got the ball in my face. It was bruising up, and ran off the playing field to my mom, and she's like, "What's up, my son? What do you want to go home?" I'm like, "Yeah." She took my hand. She's like, "Let's go home, son." That was the end of my football career. I was like 7 years old. Started. Yeah, and I thought, oh, my mom, she's so thoughtful and caring. That's what I thought at that time. Now I just thought, fuck, if I had a father around, you would just, get back in there, continue playing, you little, whine ass. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about, so since then, I never liked football, really. I just decided that it's, not cool or whatever because of that trauma. Also, another thing, I saw some game, I think it was Ronaldo, or some, superstar, getting caught on the slow motion video camera, filming. That's what we say in Swedish when they're acting like they're diving. Getting hit. Yeah, diving. You call it diving. We say filma in Swedish.
They're simulating.
Yeah, exactly. So when I saw that, and I saw it in slow mo, he wasn't even touched, and he was doing all this and like rolling around and whining and everything. Like, I can't respect this sport at all anymore. That's where all my respect just disappeared. But now I'm curious. I'm curious about football. I don't know why people are so crazy about it, but So I thought, why don't you tell us all about football? What is it? Where does where does your interest come from? What's this whole, what's a football strategy looking like? And we can come back to these questions. what's a game like, but also the whole industry, and is there corruption in this thing? It's so big. I don't know if that's a leading question.
Well,
But yeah, do you want to unfold this thing?
I don't know where to start, to be honest. Can you ask me maybe
Yeah,
start
so-
one specific question? I'm happy to answer anything, but I don't know where to
Yeah,
start.
so let's go back. So you playing, when did you start playing football?
One of my first memories as a child is actually playing goalie, I think, which I hate playing now. And I
Yeah.
was probably 5
Yeah.
at the school that I grew up in Paris.
You never got the ball in your face.
Probably, but not that I remember.
You're just a traumatized child. Poor little me. Okay, so where did you get the interest to be a football agent? Where did that come from?
That I definitely remember. So when I was 11, I don't know if you guys know Sports Center, but it's like a highlight show for sports in the US. And there's a little expose. So like a little mini clip. Usually it's just highlights of all the sports. But of course they need to fill up the whole show. So sometimes they have a 2 to 5 minute mini documentary. And it was about American football agent. And I just was like, that is what I want to do. That is amazing. That's what I want to do. And ever since then, that's what I wanted to do. So that was basically what I've done my whole life to move towards that goal. So I was 11 years old. I wanted to be a football agent in Europe, and that's what I am. So yeah.
And when you were in America, you were still dreaming about that. You were still keeping that as you were at the university.
I wrote my university essays about it, everything. And when I was 16, when I studied abroad in France in Rennes, to kind of relearn my French in a way, because French is my first language. But even though I was born American citizen, my dad's American, I was kind of an immigrant moving to the US, and then I would respond to my mom who was speaking French in English. So I wasn't really fluent in French anymore. I kind of lost it because it wasn't cool or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was part of the reason to go there. But then my uncle, who still lives in Toulouse, took me to Barcelona 1 week and long weekend. We went to the Pyrenees to go skiing. That was nice. And then we went to Barcelona. I said, "That's where I want to live. This is paradise." So I said, "Okay, I'm going to learn Spanish." Of course, this is also a strategic decision because of football. I spoke French, English, and Spanish. They're the most official languages in FIFA. There's some other languages, but these are the ones that you can take, for example, the exam to be an agent in, and then any written communication. And then obviously opens up South America too, and Spain. So this is strategic to learn Spanish.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are the things. I wanted to move to Barcelona when I was 16, and these are just very, very clear ideas for better or worse, but that's what I'm doing. That's exactly right.
So how do you say in French, "It's my first language"?
C'est ma première langue.
C'est ma première langue.
Oh, very good pronunciation. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. How do you say something really awkward in French?
I don't know. When people ask me, like, say something, I don't know. I mean, what do you want to know?
I don't know. Like something where you use your hands, Probably like something where you do this, like you're like talking about your emotions, your feelings.
Well, I don't know if this even translates.
Do you have a pickup line?
No, I just smile.
That you want to share?
N'importe quoi, I would say, is like, that's just literal translation would be like, that means nothing. That there's no sense in what you're saying.
No.
C'est n'importe quoi. Like, that's just bullshit, basically.
N'importe quoi.
Yeah.
N'importe quoi.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you say something cool about football in French? Passe le football! Passe! Hey! Stupide! What's the most common thing you hear on the playing field, like said in French?
Putain.
Of course.
But that's probably not necessarily just in the pitch. Well,
Nice.
Zidane, Mbappe, I would say come to mind for football in France, of course.
Putain, Zidane.
Enroulé is like the shot Henri would do when you like hit it with a certain side of your foot to make it curve.
Okay. Like a screwball or something?
So like right on the inside
called.
part of your foot, and then if you go like this, then the ball will curve like that.
What do you mean inside part of your foot?
So
Like
obviously you have
on
the
the flat
outside.
side?
and then you have the inside. So your
Yeah,
two insides
okay.
are touching, right? But then
You
this
see how
would
dumb
be-
I'm about this?
No, it's a simple. I mean, it's obvious to me, but of course, if you don't play, then you don't know. But this would be kind of like between your arch and your big toe, like
Mhm.
that part. And then if you come in as an angle, then you can have a certain curve,
Mhm.
and then you can move the ball a certain way, like on a free kick.
Okay.
Messi would do this as well, for example. It's just a certain type of technique. Instead of hitting it with your laces, which obviously are your laces of your shoe, and that will give you more power.
Ah, yeah, like
Right,
a
if you-
straight. I think of it as a straight kick. I don't know.
Yeah,
Makes
more. I
sense.
mean, more or less, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that gives you more power. Whereas if you hit it in the inside of your foot,
Mm.
well, if you just hit it flat the inside of your foot, it's not gonna go any direction necessarily. Whereas if you hit it like in on the point right between your arch and your big toe, then you're able to with the angle curve it. So it's a
Okay.
different technique.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe sometime you. A Swedish friend of mine. He just tried to come. Well, he half convinced me to try the Celebreak to go with him and
Yes,
and
that's
play.
what I play all the time. I just played today.
Yeah.
I play like
You
3 to
use the
5 times a
Celebreak.
week. Yeah, I played like 300 games.
So yeah, Celebrate. Can you say something about that? It's an app.
Yeah, so
you-
basically it's an app like Meetup, but you just sign up to play football. So they have
awesome.
probably 15 to 20 games, maybe even more
A
a day. And anywhere from the morning to the evening, all parts of the different parts of the city. It's in different cities, but Barcelona is the most developed. It's where it started. When I moved here over 4 years ago now, well, 4.5 years ago,
Yeah.
that was just starting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just it sounds like such an obvious idea like Uber. Now I was like, oh, I thought of Uber, or I thought of Celebrate, but
Yeah. Right.
you just sign up. You have an app. You have credits,
Right.
so that then you can only cancel 15 hours before. So
Mhm.
that makes sure that if you commit, then you're not just
And you
showing
pay a
you're
little
not
bit as
hungover
well.
and then you don't come up. You
Right.
don't come up. You don't show up, right? So the games aren't full. That's really annoying. So you can get your credit back if you cancel it between that time, but otherwise that makes the games full, and it can be 8-on-8, 7v7, 5v5, all different
Mhm.
parts of the city. You just play for an hour usually. You can play with your friends or not. You can just go by yourself.
Yeah.
So it gives you a lot of flexibility. You don't need to be playing in a league, or you can make it work to your schedule. So it's great. Really, I met a lot of good people there. The organizers are nice. It's really good. You just show up. You don't have to worry about the pennies. It's all clean for you. You have the organizer changing the goalie every like 7 minutes,
Yeah.
giving you the balls as well, gets the ball. So it's good. Yeah, I really love it actually.
I tried it once. That's why I'm sitting here smiling because it reminds me of this once like 4 years ago. I think
You went to Celebreak.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was. Maybe at least 4 years ago. I think it was.
So you got over your trauma a little bit. That's good.
Yeah, and I was with my my at that time colleague, and he convinced me to go with my running shoes. They're all like
Mhm.
shiny and slippery. I had no idea that that's gonna be fun.
What's the added challenge?
At least to say. And then he convinced me like we're gonna smoke before. Here in Barcelona it's legal to smoke, and we're just like, all right, let's get let's make this even more fun, I guess.
I can only imagine the situation.
And this was before I had my sciatica, so I had all fours. I was like, still 29, I think. And he
So
was
you have
using me.
sciatica like in the back.
Yeah, now I have it's in my pain in the butt, like
Literally. Oh.
Yeah, and it's coming and going. So, we can come back to that. We were playing with my at that time colleague, and he was just using me as a tank because I was just sprinting. I couldn't brake because I was sliding. So he was just telling me like, "Hey, attack this guy." He was French Marken. He's like, hey, Moise, attack, just go, kill him. This guy, he's okay, no problem. Just move him back to the side, no problem. So I was, everybody was afraid of me at the playing field because I was bigger as well than now, and I was running very aggressively because that's all I knew what to do,
like
running,
a soldier,
like sprinting. He told me to kill, I was stoned. I was like, all right, smash.
That's not usually what people who are high would think. I would think of, but okay.
It was very funny, but you know, when they realized that I had no idea what I was doing, all of a sudden, all the opponents, they were coming for me. They were coming because they were just, what do you call it, dribbling. They were like, yeah, they were just, they figured out that I couldn't, you know, they just did this thing and I would fly to that side.
Yeah, that's
and they just passed walking.
Yeah.
And it was very easy for them. It was awkward for me because yeah, all these guys, they just started to intimidate me, sort of, with showing up, you know, and look at me in the eyes. And it was fun. It was fun. Now I'm thinking, okay, let's get some Decathlon 20-year shoes or whatever.
Exactly. That's
like,
what Boyan has.
Get some foot, like some control that just you stick in the ground with those dubs. What do you call them?
Studs. Yeah.
Studs.
Or cleats.
Yeah. So yeah, I will join you as well to the Celebreak.
I'd be happy to have you come for sure. Let me
try
know.
It out. So yeah, okay. So you wanted to be an agent, and that's where your football career ended. Like your actual playing career ended, or how did it go about?
Well, to be honest, yes, of course, as a kid, you'd always want to be a professional athlete. That's common. But even now, it sounds really glamorous, even what I'm doing, but it's really not that easy. And I really wouldn't trade being a player. Yes, okay, if I'm going to be playing at Barcelona, that would probably be dishonest to tell you otherwise. But actually, I don't think it's that interesting to be a professional player in a lot of ways, because I like to think I'm intrigued by using the intellectual part of my mind, and not that players don't exercise that, but I think that just training all day, like for example, I was in Zaragoza because I have a friend who introduced me to his childhood friend who plays for Real Zaragoza, who's in the second division in Spain. And then we had dinner at his house after, and I said, so what do you do? Like, what's your daily schedule like? You train every day? He said, yeah, we train every day. So, okay, what time do you wake up? I said, okay, I wake up at like 9, and then we have training complex is close, so we train at like 10. And so, okay, so you don't train for like more than 2 hours. Okay, then you shower, and then you have meal by the chef that's healthy but also tasty. Okay, all right, I can more or less imagine that you do something like that. But then what do you do after? Oh, I go home. I give my girlfriend the rest of the food from the chef because it's good, and then I take a nap, and then, okay, fine. And then what do you do? And you wake up, and then you drink mate because he's Argentinian. And then, sometimes you go into the city center, which is like a medium-sized city. It's not like there's that much to do there, at least from when I went there. And sometimes we go shopping. Otherwise, we walk around, and then, we drink more mate, and then we go to bed. I mean, to me, that sounds fucking boring, right? I mean, honestly, like,
I thought you were gonna say this is dope.
Yeah,
this is the life I always wanted.
Okay, yeah, like, what do I do? I mean, I play football basically every day, and then I do other things. You know, and my day doesn't end by taking a nap and drinking mate. So, all of that to say, I'm not like belittling it. Then, of course, you need
some
to
people
work
are
on
happy with that.
Yeah, right. Not either.
Kudos to them.
Yeah, it just seems it wouldn't feel personally. I wouldn't feel like fulfilled. I don't think I'd like to like use my brain, and I like to not say you're not like football, but like I wouldn't feel completely fulfilled. So I like the.
You would like to have some more kind of maybe intellectual pursuit as well included in.
Yeah, and it's not like I didn't make it, right? I wasn't that good. I play Celebreak
like,
for
what
a
else
reason.
do I have left? I got a brain still.
Like I like to think I'm a good amateur player. I played semi-pro, but that doesn't mean I'm a professional player, right? So I'm not. I also realize that I'm not like that level, but I really don't think that it would be like that fulfilling. I think it's a lot easier than people think to be at any level. Even if you're professional, then you can make a lot of money, but then you never play and then the coach changes, and then you do play, and then you get injured, and then there's like so many factors that come in. So
you just
really
see what you see on TV is the glamour, but behind all of that, there's
exactly.
I mean, it would suck really bad if you're not the top players. You might not get that much playtime, actually, right?
Exactly.
You're in the team, but you're still like on the bottom end of the team,
right? So imagine like, okay, this guy is Zaragoza. He was playing basically every game, but Imagine you get injured, or you're not injured. Even worse, you're not injured. So then you got to go to Albacete. I don't know if you know this, but that's like
What's that?
I've never been there, but I have a friend who plays there. But it's
It's a team.
yeah, it's a
Okay.
team. It's small. It's a random town in Spain. Let's say, all
Okay.
due respect,
Yeah.
and you go there, and it's like 5 hours on the bus,
Yeah.
and then you're not starting, and then you warm up. You never come on, even for 5 minutes. That's your job, right?
Yeah.
And then what? You take a 5-hour bus ride back, and like you
Wow.
get back at 3 a.m. And that's people that seems really glamorous stuff. Like that's what almost all of them do.
Yeah, right.
Right, and that's
you
even
go bus you go bus riding to different places all
yeah,
the time, right?
and you might you're not just playing Champions League like Messi or Ronaldo at 9 o'clock on Tuesday or Wednesday night. It's really not that easy, and it's not easy. It's either easy to be an agent either. But I don't. When people say, "Oh, it's so easy," they make so much money, they just kick the ball around. I was like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Really, you have no idea what you're talking about. And what about if you get injured, right? Or the new coach comes in, or millions of things, or you're like Lukaku. I don't know. You maybe don't know or don't know him, but people said, "Oh, Chelsea spent in London 110 million on him. He should perform right away." Well, they're not robots. Also, one of the reasons he wasn't performing is because his mom wasn't able to come over, and he was really close with his family because of Brexit. He's Belgium, but his mom wasn't able to come over that way. So all these things that come into it,
Factors.
right? Factors. Or you come from Argentina, just an example, right? Or you don't even speak the language, like Aguero. He still doesn't even speak English. He's been there. He was at Manchester for like 10 years, and I saw like a mini documentary about him. He doesn't speak the language. So how do you integrate, right? Okay, that's also his personal decision. Maybe he's not making enough of an effort, and of course they're going to have tutors that can help him. But he also has none of his family there. He has no education. He maybe doesn't have his dad around. I don't know specifically his case. So I'm just making an example. Imagine you going to another country, not knowing the language. You're 18 years old. You have tons of money. You've never been to college. You have one dad. You have 10 cousins relying on you, and then you're just expected to perform like that. That's unrealistic. That's really difficult. And people just look at it as like, oh yeah, you're because you see them twice a week or once a week, and like they should perform, right? That's like an unfair. Yeah. You wouldn't say that that's fair on any other industry, but because they make a lot of money and they're so young, then people think they should perform, and that's not fair.
Right? No.
In a human way, I would say
that there is so much money involved in football and this professional industry of football. It just tells me that it must be actually a lot of pressure, a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
You must have extreme pressure if everybody's paying you a lot of money. There must be like you gotta, there are agents and there are owners and shareholders and stakeholders, right? So everybody wants something from you, right?
Right.
And in jiu-jitsu, you learn how to deal with your ego all the time. I don't know if that's the case in football or
probably they should have some classes about that.
I just have a feeling
I don't think they do really, and that would be a really important aspect to integrate.
So how does that? I mean, you always hear about football players being such cool, rock stars and assholes. I just heard about this. I remember a lot of things, but when it comes to footballer names, there was this guy Suarez from Uruguay.
Luis Suarez, yeah.
Yeah, one of my students, he just told me today that this guy, he's an amazing football player, but such a dick or asshole. Sorry, excuse my French.
I would agree with that. I hate him. Yeah.
So like what is like so you were just talking about this. How does it work with you have these certain performers that maybe they don't perform in the way they want, and they have all these personal things going on, and what more can be playing into the way your season goes? You can have injuries, you can not get play time. What else can ruin your performance or your mood, or as a football player? How do you keep that up? How do you keep up your mood if you're the one who's gonna sit all the time, or if the one who's gonna be under the light all the time, and you need to perform all the time, and you're prone to getting your knees banged up, for example, how do you keep it up all the time?
Well, I think a lot of them have sports psychologists as a big part of the business as well now.
What's that?
What so someone deals with
do?
the pressures of this. For example, Jadon Sancho, who's a player from when he was 22, got bought, but for I think it was 100 million euros, 85 million pounds, or maybe it was 85 million euros, but tons of money. And then Manchester United's coach Eric Ten Hag sent him away for like 2 months because he just wasn't right mentally. So again, they just think that, oh, you're supposed to perform, but you're 22, you're a kid. You're a kid. You know nothing about life. I mean, think about, I don't know about you, but well, at 22, you don't know as much as you do now, right?
I was retarded when I was 22.
Yeah, don't use that word.
I was. But I feel like I was.
But to expect someone to perform at the highest level, like all the time, is just, it's unrealistic for anyone. But not to mention someone who's just still growing up. And you know, I don't know how you deal with it. Everyone has to deal with it their own way, but I don't think it's that easy. That's the point. Especially because then the coach can change. So I would say never choose the club for the coach, because the coach can be gone, and then you're still going to be there.
Yeah.
So you have to choose for the philosophy of the club, I would say, more than anything.
Oh, right. So even if what stays normally, do the owners? Do you have the same owners in a club like for a decade?
Mostly the owners, I would say, would be the most constant. The coach, for example, in the Premier League in England, 12 of the coaches have changed this year.
In a year?
Out of the 20.
In a year?
Yeah, 12 sackings.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so, right, so there's no, because it's so results based. Because if you get relegated, you go down in the second league, you lose tons of money.
But is it the same in every club, or is it that that particular club is acting like that?
This is the English league, the Premier League, the top league.
So it's
this is an extreme example. I think this is the most in all time in history. But it's because the money is so important, so it's results now immediately. Because otherwise, you go down and you lose tons of money. So it's a complete business. So it's ruthless for the coaches as well. It's not really a healthy environment in a lot of ways. To be successful at this level, it requires so much. That's why it just pisses me off when people try to belittle footballers, because they just don't know anything about it. Maybe you don't like the sport. Maybe you think it's
all based on my trauma, man.
Right? No, I'm saying the general you, but I just feel like people are really ignorant when they talk about these things, because it looks so easy. But it's like, why don't you do it then?
Do people talk a lot like that? Like you're bringing up my symmetry, Virgo.
Projection.
I'm an Aquarius. Do people football fans, do they talk about football in like, do they belittle football or the coaches? Or I hear, I do
criticize. Yeah,
I think I do hear people say like, oh yeah, this coach is an idiot, or these people are stupid, or people get very emotional, irrational.
I would say, yeah. They speak from the heart, which is fine, which makes it interesting. But again, they're not robots. It's not machinery. There's so many factors that come in. Imagine you move to a different country with a different language, and then your kids need to find a school and all these things. Like, that would just be difficult for anyone. And then you just showed up. A club might spend 100 million on a transfer, and they don't spend $1 million trying to make sure that his family gets situated. And then they get mad that the player's not performing. It just doesn't take into account like the whole human aspect of it.
Right.
Which is not just to be a nice guy. I'm saying that it's your asset. So you should invest in your asset to be successful, because in the end, you're blaming the wrong thing. You're blaming your lack of integrating the player rather than the player should just show up. No, that would be ridiculous. You wouldn't say that in any other context, only in this, because there's so much money involved. Yeah. You're actually not you're not investing. You wouldn't just buy a huge house and be like, oh, it should be perfect. No, you need to put furniture in. You need to put the lights in. You need to have internet. You need to do all these things. It's not just the house itself. There's all these things that go into it.
It's about priorities.
To like fertilize it.
What's your scale of priorities? Like, do you prioritize first and foremost, okay, as much money as possible, And then number two, which is maybe way down, like I care about my players, or I care about these assets, like how they actually feel emotionally, or do I mean, is that does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it's kind of I'm not insulting your question, but it's kind of a false question, or it's the other way around. Is that
Yeah, it should be.
one
I
thing
mean,
leads to the other, right? So if you have good habits
of
and you
course,
do the right things, just like if you eat correctly and you work out and you go to sleep,
then you
then you
reap
will be then you
rewards.
will be
Yeah,
successful.
you get the
You'd have the good
rewards,
habits.
which
It's
is
not about
gonna be.
focusing on the money, right?
Yeah,
It's about, maybe that was your suggestion by that question, like,
yeah. I
but
mean,
like you need to invest in those things, and all
mm,
those things will take care of itself.
yeah.
That
So
will happen naturally, for sure.
when it does go wrong, is it because the priorities are wrong? That they just look to the money. I mean,
Yeah,
these investors, the owners,
I
the
would say so.
agents or whatever, or the even the players. Like, oh, I'm taking this contract. He's paid
Yeah,
for it.
but then again, some who am I to say for some kid in the ghetto who's from a country where they have
I mean, you're
nothing,
just breaking through.
and then they have 20 family members relying on them. Who am I to say, oh yeah, well you shouldn't take more money?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
That's your livelihood. I have to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
That's your priority.
Mm-hmm.
Now that doesn't necessarily mean that wouldn't be my advice that you won't necessarily get as far, but
Mm-hmm.
people have an economic reality, and I respect that as well. So I don't think that people should like, oh, he's making so much money and he just cares about the money. So what? So someone's going to pay you 10 times more to be a plumber.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that you're not going to go to another country? Like that's ridiculous. That's unfair. And of course you would do that. And then it's almost like a projection of your insecurities onto a footballer because it sounds so easy for them. Not to mention that their career is limited. They're not playing forever. Maybe you would play for 25 years. Maybe. That's an insane example. That would never happen from 15 to 40 years old.
That's Zlatan
25 years
Ibrahimovic.
old, right? Like that would be insane. If you played 10 years, that's unbelievable. Like I
Yeah.
know in the NFL, the average career is less than 3 years.
Mm.
Okay, so that's more of a physical sport. But the
Yeah.
point being, most people do not play more than 10 years.
You get
right?
injured.
Like definitely
You get
not.
old.
Or whatever
Yeah.
happens, right?
Whatever happens, right?
Right?
You
Or
get bored. Whatever.
yeah. So this aspect is that you have a limited amount to make money for the rest of your life because most of the time you're not going to come out with a university degree, or you're going to go into depression because you never have the certain high of scoring a goal or
Mm.
being the most important person in the city because you're part of the football team. Like these are realities people don't look at. They don't understand that. They just see like, oh yeah, you're scoring a goal and that's amazing in that game, but they don't understand anything about it.
Yeah.
Which is not that it's fine, but like people shouldn't judge what they don't know. That's what bothers me because they're people as well, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned these players from, for example, South America, and they might have relatives and family and people that rely on them getting this.
Yeah, and it's not
this
just there,
income.
right? It could be anywhere, but
Yeah.
yes,
Anyway,
commonly.
so I wanted to. You mentioned that you have been to, was it Brazil?
Brazil and Argentina, I went last year. Yeah.
So now, as you work as a, is it not a talent scout? You're
Football agent.
football agent.
Mhm.
Football agent. So you went to South America to look for players to bring to sell or to bring, or how does that work?
No, primarily I went there because of my friend's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
but then I also used it as a time because I've never been to South America, and then I also had a partner I'm still working with who I end up meeting in person in Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a longer project, so we'll see one step at a time.
I
But
remember this trip.
yeah,
Right, we talked about this. I met you just before you went on the trip.
yeah, and you
Brazil.
mentioned the what's it called falls that I never went to. It's too far for me.
Iguazu Falls.
Yeah.
On the border of Paraguay, Brazil, and
Yeah.
Argentina, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so that was the trip where you just saw like what kind of talents or what kind of players do you have there? And
Yeah, well, I had a connection at Estudiantes de La Plata, so I went there. I knew a director, so I got like the stadium tour, went to a game. That the club was very welcoming to me, and then I met a assistant coach from another club as well, Gymnastic de La Plata, and then I went to a couple games, but more for leisure, like Racing. I went to do the stadium tour at River Plate. I went to the Boca Stadium, etc. But I well when I travel, I always try to have meetings when I can, but it was mostly for leisure, but it gave me a certain idea. I actually have a shirt from the favela. It was Favela FC. I still have it, and then the owner of the club gave it to me. It was just like a really like small club in the favela
Yeah.
because my partner was from there. He showed me around, so that was quite cool to see like the real
Cool.
OG stuff, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I I heard that in, for example, I think it was in Brazil. Why would Brazilian kids be much maybe better or stronger or something like that in football? So there was this one example that some of them they would play with, in a much smaller sand field maybe or gravel field, and they would play with a metal like an iron ball, like a
Iron.
tennis sized iron ball, for example,
Okay.
and they would play football with that, and it's just heavy, right? And it's small, so you gotta be more agile. Like you build up strength and agility and stuff like that too.
You got a better touch, yeah.
But maybe I don't know if you heard about that kind of stuff. But is there do you see any difference between these kids from these places or like favelas or South America in this case compared to European kids and their way of playing?
Yeah, well, I see them even when I play Celebreak, to be honest. I think yeah, let's say the South Americans have a more of a winning spirit, but I would say they're a little
Okay.
bit dirty. Like they try to
Okay.
cheat you also,
Oh yeah.
if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah.
It's just like I want to play a fair game and clearly that was out or something. And you know that was, but you're like deceiving me, which I don't like. I think they're more individualistic as well.
Okay.
So maybe that's I think football
They look for themselves.
yeah, I think they try to show themselves, right? So where I think, for example, the Swedes, they got to the quarterfinals last World Cup or 2 World Cups ago, but that's the farthest they'll ever go, right? Because like Ibra, okay, he is Swedish, of course, but is he really Swedish? Okay, this is a whole conversation, but
Where's
he's an immigrant, right? And he has a lot of personality. He's not like
He's not the
Freddie Ljungberg.
typical Swedish
right
guy.
and so that's what makes him different. He would be different anywhere, okay,
For
don't get
sure,
me
for
wrong,
sure,
but
for sure.
he has that personality, individual skill, that those are the type of players that ultimately make the difference. So countries like Sweden can be really organized and be disciplined and can get to the quarterfinals, but to get to the next level you need someone that makes the difference. And those are the type of players that you might have in Argentina, for example, or Brazil. But then when you have too many of those players, then they all have an ego.
They're all
It's not
superstars.
FIFA where you're just playing a video game and you have 3 Messis, right? Like
Right.
they all need to work together and have chemistry. So you
Right.
need to have a balance,
Mm.
which is not easy.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm not just saying because I'm French, but France has the discipline. I would say it's like the white discipline. Let's say if you wanted to make it like that simplistic, with the white coach, and you need to go in these areas, and then you have the flair of like the immigrant population of the blacks and the Arabs that make the difference, but they still work in the system and they all complement each other to have a team. Then it's beautiful because France is a country of everything. Like even on the inside of the collar, it says "Nos différences nous unissent," like our differences unite us. So all of this somehow works together and shows that, well, people think France is a white country. It's not. And I think that's a cool place because of that. And somehow in the football pitch, it's expressed that they're able to work within the structure, but also have creative players that make the difference, like Pogba or Dembele or Mbappe. And I think that's like really unique. Whereas Brazil might have, let's say, 3 Neymars, right? Or Argentina 1, but it was just all Messi and they were just giving him the ball. There was not another Messi. Right, so everyone needs to have a role. I think that's what's interesting about football. For any team, and everyone can't be Michael Jordan, right? That you need
of course.
And if everyone is Michael Jordan, then you need the Dennis Rodman,
right,
for Michael Jordan to be Michael Jordan. So these things are important. It's not one is better than the other. Of course, there might be one superstar, but he's not the superstar unless the other people are supporting him.
Right.
He can't be that good by himself.
And how do you? I mean, I'm just thinking now. It just brings me to this, different people, different colors, and so on. If you would feel, I don't know if it's fair to say marginalized. I don't even know if this is a smart or dumb question, but if you would have like these, superstars, let's say, the flair, coming from Arabs or South Americans or whatever, and then as a white person, you would feel like, oh, I'm just gonna be the supportive player in the back. I don't like this feeling. How does that? Is there anything? Is there any? Is that an issue in any way?
Good question. I never thought about it. I can't necessarily speak that to myself because I haven't played at a high enough level. But personally, I play more offensively and attacking, so I would never really play defense. So I would identify myself more. I mean, I think I'm a team player, but more individualistic. So I wouldn't. Maybe I'm not the best person to ask,
Mm,
but maybe yeah. I mean, there's good white players as well that
mm.
play up front. I'm struggling to think of one. Maybe there are more defenders,
But
but I don't know. You're talking about in terms of like a certain complex that they might have
yeah, I don't
because of that.
know. Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I never thought about it.
Now,
Maybe
now that you mentioned this whole thing, you're talking about that you were an attacker and you would never play as a defensive. When I was younger, now I would probably always want to be an attacker if I could. And if I couldn't, if I wouldn't have the capability, I would probably be happy to be a supportive in a team setting. But when I was a child, I would always go for, being a defensive, a back player. What do you call them?
defender.
Defender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt comfortable with being, blocking and not attacking, and that was just me as a child. I didn't want to be the attacker. I didn't feel that aggressive, for example. So maybe that's something that sticks with you. If you started as a child to get into those kind of positions, you just stick with it for
Yeah, I've
whatever.
never. I mean that like I said that one of my first memories was playing goalie, but I hate playing goalie now. Like I would not even like playing defense. Like never. I would always want to. Maybe that's a reflection of your personality, I suppose. As well, like take people on 1v. Like my favorite thing is going 1v1 against someone and just like you
Mm-hmm.
imposing your will on the other person and like even embarrassing them, right? Like nutmegging them or scoring. Like there's nothing more satisfying to me, honestly. But then I have friends that they love like
Yeah.
just frustrating you or defending you,
Yeah.
right? They don't need to like
I mean,
score,
it's a
right?
game, right? So why
Yeah,
not?
it's
Like, this is you have set up rules here for a reason, so that this is a place where you can just it's safe to do things you wouldn't do in real life.
yeah, it's a and
Right? So
then you can be intense after the game. It's over. It's over, right? I think that's like a really. My friend said that because a lot of people say I'm quite intense when I play, and he said, "Yeah, but I like how you play because yeah, football is a way to scream and shout and get
mm,
get everything out, if you will,
mm,
and if you say something, then you try to say it in a positive way. It's not like you're just trying to, if you're just being an asshole and just criticizing people, then that's different, right? But if
yeah.
you're doing the right intentions, then I think people can understand that. Just like when if you're teaching,
Hmm.
if you say things with intensity but love and the person knows that you're doing that for the right reason, supporting them, then they will respond to that. If you're just doing it just because you're being frustrated, then a child can also feel that and will resent that.
Mm.
So it's not necessarily the intensity, but it's the where it's coming from, and if you're trying to be productive by
Yeah.
that.
So you're teaching as well.
Yeah.
Ah, that's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to make the transition for
Nice.
you.
Actually, we've been on for 50, almost 50 minutes now.
Okay.
Yeah. So it would be nice to, I guess, segue into how football also works together with your teaching career.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, you're teaching. Are you teaching children?
Yes. So there. What would you? Yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna ask me?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you. You're teaching children. What subjects are you teaching?
Usually math, but it can be English, it can be science,
Hmm.
whatever really. But most economics as well, business, but
Hmm.
mostly math because I used to be a high school math teacher. But really, it's just like one-on-one tutoring.
Mm.
Can be kids as young as like 8, then it can be adults as well. So
Are
it
there,
depends.
yeah, are there lessons learned? Like, are there lessons that you can draw from football into your teaching? These subjects, and vice versa.
Sure. Yeah, I think that. So people say, oh, like with slavery laws, right? Like
With what?
with slavery laws. Like separate is not equal. Okay, I think you need to treat people
Mm.
differently but equally. But
Mm.
what I mean by that is you can get this best out of someone by treating. You want to treat them with the same respect and give them the same opportunity. But the way I put, like what you said about like the mom and the dad thing, right? Like the way I motivate you is going to be different than I motivate someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like I might push the button with you, is like being really harsh with you and yelling at you. And like I know that gets the best out of you. But if I do that to someone else, it destroys them.
Yeah.
So I'm treating you equally, but in a different way. So it is separate. But separate is equal if you're doing it the right way. Maybe this is not the right way of describing it, but I believe that because you can't take the same approach with everyone. You just can't. You're not going to get the best out of them. Some kids, you be really tough with them, and like that's really what they need. Like I remember when I coached in South Central in the ghetto, and then I asked this team hadn't won a game the previous year, and then when I came aboard, they went to the playoffs and they won a game and they did really well. Right? I'm not saying it was just because of me, but hopefully had some kind of positive impact. And then I asked, and this was the high school varsity team, the boys. And I asked one of the girls who was on the on the girls team or was the girlfriend of one of the guys in the team. I said, so what do they, I was curious, like, what's the feedback? Like, what do they think? Right. 'Cause they're not going to tell me to my face, but in a way of like trying to understand, like, what is the things that maybe I can improve on, what's going well, etc. Like honest reflection. They're like, and this has always stuck with me. That's what I'm saying, I suppose. Like, oh yeah, well, they say that you can be tougher with them. So like, I was the first day I like made them run suicides, right? I think that you can, you go back and forth and you can never be harsher. You can always be less harsh. So I think it's good to like set that kind of discipline. And like you are authority figure, the coach, and then they are the players or the students. But then at the same time, once you build that trust in the relationship, you can actually push them maybe more than you think you can. So it's always like, you can have to feel this out, but people need that actually, that discipline, not just saying like being told what to do, but maybe there's also these kids didn't have two role models at home.
Yeah.
Right. So you can actually, once you have that, when people believe in you and they know that you're like, she said, she's like, yeah, they know that you love them. Right. She actually like said it like that. Yeah. So once you build that trust, then you can go as far as they want you to take them, right? And if they don't believe that you care about them, that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
So you have to build that trust first, but you can actually go a lot farther than you think you can, I think. Obviously in appropriate ways. I'm not suggesting anything else, but because they believe, but they believe that you're doing it for the right reasons. It's like your dad or your mom, well, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, fuck that. Like,
so
that's ridiculous. But they somehow have but you trust them, hopefully, because you know that they're doing it in your best interest. You might not know exactly where it's going, but you're like, I'm going to do that because I know that he loves me and that's like the right thing for me to do. Right. Like a kind of a blind trust.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
but how do you break into, how do you get the permission? Like, how do you do this the first time, being harsh or tough and, putting down your foot or whatever you want to call it?
Putting your foot down. I don't know. Honestly, I think it's difficult, to be honest. So like when I teach the classes, it's always a difficult position because you're there because usually, especially in math, the kid has poor grades. So I teach these kids are like super wealthy kids. I mean, these kids
is it
wealthy.
Private classes or group classes?
Private classes usually, one-on-one.
Yeah.
So I go to these kids' houses in Sarria that are usually at the American School of Barcelona or Benjamin Franklin International School, which are doing an international baccalaureate or pre-IB curriculum in English. And I mean, these kids are really multi-millionaires, I mean, they have like unbelievable houses. Like it's insane. And you're paying someone to go to your house for 2 hours a week or once a week and like just show up at your house. Right. And they have people coming in, giving you food, like, of these things, right? The kid never,
somebody with a big coconut leaf, like
basically, right? May as well.
Banana
like they have pools, they have everything. They've never taken the metro before. They never non-flying.
They don't even know
class,
what it is.
Exactly. So, and I actually think it's really bad for the kids to grow up that way. So
you bring them to the ghetto. Or you tell them
well,
stories about it.
They're spoiled brats though, and at the end of the day, like they need, so their mom need, for example, is usually a stay-at-home mom. They know that they, like, the kid is not performing well. Okay, so, and usually in math, because people don't like math and it's boring. So you come in there, the kids has everything, and you're supposed to just fix the problem because the mom's like, well, I pay money and then you fix the problem, right? So that's actually not how it works. You're actually, your kid is doing a poor job because you haven't educated him well.
Yeah.
So you need to come in there for 2 hours a week and fix the child. Right.
Right.
Like, it's almost an impossible task in a lot of ways. But like, there's one kid in particular, he's like my favorite student now. He was a fucking nightmare in the beginning. I remember telling Boyan this actually. I was like, because you're taking a risk. You're in a position of power because they want you to fix the problem, but then you're never going to be right because they're the parent.
Right.
And then so they're always going to believe their kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're also, you're working for a company.
Yeah.
Right. And then you also have the teachers of the school. So you're not really in control.
Right.
So you have this awkward power dynamic. And then one time I told this kid in particular, I was like, dude, just, you need to change your behavior. Like, you can't act like this. You can't complain about everything. Do you know how lucky you are? You have someone like me, or whoever it is, comes to your house, someone's paid for, and you can't even sit still for 2 hours a week and listen to what I'm telling you. You can't even write a capital letter at the beginning of a sentence. You can't have a period at the end, and you can't, like, circle your answer. You can't even do it. Like, you can't do those basic things. Like, do you know how disrespectful that is? Like, to me and to your parents and to yourself? Because in the end, I'm just here to help you. Like, do you get that? Do you get that? But it's not the kid's fault, right? No. He doesn't get that. Of course, he doesn't get that because no one has told him otherwise. Like, I mean, it's also unfair to the child, right? But you need to come in there, in my opinion, to try to help them. Like, and I don't give a shit about the math, really. Okay, yeah, I hope they get good grades and they go to good. That's fine. But I wanted to teach them life lessons, like paying attention to detail. No, the other day even he said, "Oh, it doesn't matter how you spell." I was like, "Yes, it does matter. I don't care if your teacher doesn't matter. It matters to me. It matters for you to be like a functional human being in society, right? That's what I care about, right?" And so I tried to. I never was passionate about it, but I tried to use this as a means for them to understand like what's important. Like, and I really believe that, and I think that over time that they are like, well, they feel that from you, right? If you come into that real purity, then they're gonna respect you, and they will do more things. They might never thank you, they might never tell you, right? But you see them changing, and over time, and he has changed over like 3 years. So that it's like one of the most beautiful things. Really, it's a lot of work, it's hard, but you build that trust, and like they will blindly follow you because they know that what you're doing is in their best interests. So it's one of them. I'd say it's the most and least rewarding thing always. I still have students from when I was teaching will contact me on Instagram or Facebook, and they're like, yeah, I remember what you said. I know it was a bitch in class, but thank you so much, because actually you change that person's life. You change one person a little bit, and now they have a job or they're in college or whatever. Like, I remember one girl, you're never supposed to do this as an educator, is embarrass a student in front of the group. It's like the worst possible thing, right? Like, humiliate them.
But it does, I mean, it does happen sometimes.
Yeah. And this girl cheated in my class, and I 100% knew it, right? And then what I did, I ripped her paper out in front of everyone. And it was like, and this was like the youngest student. This is like really shocking moment. It was probably traumatic for her, really. But I was not going to take shit for anyone in my class, first of all. And I was making an example of her, but I made an example of her because she did something wrong. And then 2 years later, she came up to me and said, "Look, Dylan, I got into UCLA. And I also got into this school. So I wanted to know your opinion on where I should go." Right? So somehow, hopefully, moment was a teaching moment for her.
Right.
And she was fucking successful after that, right? I'm not saying it was just because of me. But she could have been like, "I hate you. I'll never speak to you again." She
just
came to you for advice,
came back to ask
right? It says a lot, I think.
Right. Yeah.
So you have these things that are you at the end of the day, you try to do what you think is right, and maybe if I told that kid, stop being such a fucking brat, like he would have, I could get fired, right? And then I'd go back to my boss. That easily could happen. So you are, I don't know, you're taking the risk, but if you do things, I think what you think is the right thing, then you can at least live with that. I can at least live with that because I the mom loves me, She's like, "Oh, he only wants to work with you. Look, Dylan, we got all this positive feedback. He's the parents, the teachers realize he's really changed." And it's like, Of course he's changed because I've been there to help him. I'm not saying it's just my doing, but it's because he's doing the work, but because I'm trying the best I can to, and no one has probably ever talked to him like that.
Yeah,
Right?
probably not.
Everyone has just given him everything.
Probably not.
No one's put like checked him, being like, you can't do that.
Yeah,
So they need that. Kids strive for that.
yeah,
Really, they're just not. No one's giving that, and then it's a disservice to parents that give them everything. Because at the end of the day, you're shielding them, and then when they go into the real world, they're like a bubble baby. They don't know anything.
exactly.
Nothing.
Right.
So actually, you think you're helping your child, but you're actually hurting them in the long run.
But I had a few. I've had a few students, children, young, different ages, but when they are, teenagers, early teenagers, especially, they try all these kind of tricks. I do classes online, so it's video camera, but they do these things where they just, slipping under the camera, or they turn off the camera, and they, I know that they're lying down in bed, just chilling. And, they're coming up with all these excuses, and I sometimes I don't know, and especially in the beginning I didn't know how to talk about this or how to confront it. But sometimes I'm just like, I just go straight to it, like, hey, look, your camera's off. Oh yeah, because can we do the class without camera? It's like, yeah, but no. No.
Actually, no.
Actually not. This is not a group class. It's not like, I'm gonna speak to you for an hour and you're just gonna listen and you can zone out. And like, this is a language class. It's one-on-one. We're having a two-way conversation here. So it's good if I see your eyes, so that I know that you understand what I'm saying, because I'm gonna say stuff to you in Swedish, and so I need your feedback. See your eyes, like starting drooling and stuff.
But are the parents paying for this, or
these are parents paying for this? Yeah.
So the kid is not necessarily motivated. Same thing with me. Like the kid doesn't. This kid doesn't give a shit. Like he does not want to be there at all, right? So that's hard. It's not like you're an adult learner who wants to learn, who's motivated. That's different, right?
It does.
The
depend.
dynamic is different. Yeah.
Sometimes it's like they need to do this for school because they have extra classes. They are. It's a Swedish family. They go to an international school in Thailand or in Sweden or whatever, but they need to get some extra help. Mm-hmm. Because they're falling behind or something like that. And I need to spend normally, 20 of the 60 minutes, I need to spend about 20 minutes just talking with them about life, about things, not in Swedish, just talking, just to connect with them. Because otherwise, if you just go to the lesson, they fall asleep, they get so bored.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah, and I guess maybe they don't have many grown-ups around them who's actually listening to or having a conversation with them. Exactly. So I'm just trying, like, hey, what's going on? What are you playing football? Okay, how's it going this week? Did you win or whatever?
Building a rapport.
Did you play your guitar this week? Yeah, I played a little bit. Oh, show me your song, whatever. Just
it makes sure that they feel listened to, they're valued, they're a human being, that people care about them, right?
Then actually we have a lesson and we're actually doing hard work and they're focused and they're they like it, but it needs some around 20 minutes. That's what I found. About 20 minutes of talking shit about whatever. It can be good shit, bad shit, whatever, just talking. For sure. But yeah, it's and sometimes I need to be like, hey, look, you're spending your time, you're spending your mom's money. I'm here, I'm getting all this money. I could just sit here and not give a shit about what's going on, and you not progressing. But I'm not here because I want your money. I'm here because I think my job is fun. I like to teach Swedish. I like to speak with people that want to speak back with me. So, if you don't enjoy it that much, or if you feel bored or tired, or if you have too much work at school, or, maybe we should change things up. Maybe you should speak to your mom and say, like, hey, I don't feel like taking more Swedish classes. Oh, no. Let's not do that. Well, all right.
That's always the response, basically.
Most of the time they're like, as soon as there's mom, like maybe we should bring your mom into the conversation and figure out something. They're like, oh no, let's not do that.
Anything else? Maybe dad.
Dad is much better. He's like, I agree with your mom. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, we could save some money.
I'll take you to the movie. But yeah.
It's about building the connection, really, right? I think that's your.
I think so.
At, yeah.
I think so.
People want to feel valued. People want to feel like they're listened to. I mean, there's this other girl who's just fucking absolute bitch. Like, she's 11 years old. She is like a mean girls. She's horrible. She's a horrible person. Really, she's so mean. I love
to hear about this. I don't like to be in that kind of situation, right? But hearing about it, please.
And her parents are so nice, but she's always confiding in me. Like, she told me today, so today I had to do a reflection letter. And she actually like talks like this. She's literally like a mean girl. This is incredible. And she's 11 years old. And she just tells me all these things. And she's always getting into some kind of trouble. She almost got expelled. But of course, because she's a fucking annoying person. Like, she's so annoying. Like, she is really so annoying. She is the worst. She is the worst at 11 years old. But she needs to confide in someone. Yeah, she does not have anyone to speak to. And I'm very harsher than direct with her. But I know she needs that. But at the end of the day, her parents love me because she's been improving. And her parents tell me like, oh, thank you so much, And she knows that that's true. She knows that that's true deep down. So she kind of has this love-hate relationship with me.
Yeah.
Right? So she knows that she needs that, but her ego is so big that she doesn't want to admit it. But then she has these moments like, yeah, so I had to do this reflection journal. I'm like, what the fuck is a reflection journal? I'm thinking like, she probably got in trouble or something. So she got into trouble apparently. I was just looking at her like, not trying not to laugh. But you know what? About teaching, you're also learning. Like 100%. Someone told me that she's in your life for some reason, right? So for sure, this is a reflection on myself, right? Of should I be this harsh or not? Is this working or not? Or why is she confiding in me? She supposedly hates me. She looks at me like I'm the worst, but somehow she's reaching out to me as if because no one listens to her, as if I'm like a psychologist, And I told him like, so are you asking me for advice or whatever? It's like.
As a
like,
child
she was like, yeah, right, like that of course, I guess I got that, but it was just kind of this awkward paradox. And it was something as simple as that she asked this girl if she could have a cookie because the cookie looked delicious because she had a little bit from her friend. And the girl said, yeah, you can have some. And then I think it was after recess or something, then she asked the girl again. She kind of rolled her eyes, apparently, the other girl. And then she took the cookie, and then the girl started crying.
Oh, so she stole the cookie.
Well, obviously I'm not there, so I don't know. I told her like I don't want to judge on something I don't know. But I said so she had to write a reflection journal, and then I said, so the teacher doesn't even read it? Yeah, no, they just put it in a box. I'm like, well, what's the point of that? Right? So like the teacher don't even care. But I guess the point was that you need to write about something that you did wrong, etc.
Nobody's gonna read this. I stole the cookie. I'm supposed to feel bad about this. How do I feel? Nobody's gonna read this.
I said, so what's in the reflection journal? It's like, oh yeah, it's when you do something wrong, and you have to say, what would you do? Would you do it differently another time? These types of questions, right? Which in and of itself seems like a good exercise, right? I guess, yeah. But her response, she's always the victim.
Right.
Was,
of course.
Oh yeah, well, no, but the girl is really mean. She's a crybaby. Right. So
she said about the other girl.
Yeah. So I said, well, again, I really don't know, and I don't like to judge about things I'm not aware of because that's not fair. So I think that's important to like show that you're not just taking one side or the other. And I said, well, I would, because I was really thinking like, what am I supposed to tell her? I don't know what to do. Like, yeah, the girl seemed like a real crybaby. Like she's 12 years old. She shouldn't be crying about a cookie, right? Like, this other girl. But obviously,
I feel you.
I didn't, yeah.
Been there myself.
But yeah, I was a cookie stealer before too. Who broke into the cookie jar? So I said, well, I think it's important to seek to be understood, seek to understand before being understood. So
Right,
if you try,
right.
I would try to not confront her, but have a conversation with the girl and see like, look, I understand that you seem upset.
Mm.
Did I do anything to make you upset? Because I'm
Yeah.
not understand that. Rather than be like, why are you such a crybaby, bitch? Like you cried about a cookie, you know? Like
Why you
that's
such a
probably
crybaby?
not the best way of handling the situation.
You always crying. That's why I took your cookie. I was crying because you took my cookie. No, you always cried before.
Yeah. And maybe this is just never something that
Oh my
she
God.
even considered
Yeah.
approaching it that way. And I said, well, my mom said that
Yeah.
it's important to it's how you say something, not what you say it. And these
Right.
kind of like teachable moments, I don't give a shit about the math again, right? If I can try to help her and she thinks about that, then
Mm.
hopefully that at least gives her another perspective
Yeah.
to think about. And I'm not really, I'm these moments I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you know, like what would I do? Like what would I don't know exactly, you know, but
Yeah.
like it teaches me, you learn as much as you teach, I think,
For sure.
you know, and that's valuable to me. It's humbling, really,
It is.
right?
It
Because
is.
they're
It is.
entrusting you the responsibility. They don't know you.
Yeah.
They don't know you, but they can't talk about to their mom.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they needed to talk to us about someone, and you're the one there. They
Yeah.
might think you're an asshole because you're a strict teacher, but
Mhm.
actually they still have some kind of trust in you,
Right.
and
Yeah,
they're still
yeah.
able to confide in you, and they still want advice from you.
Yeah.
And that's like really a powerful thing that you shouldn't take for granted, and you hopefully you can try to use for in the most positive way.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. I find teaching one-on-one is really, and I only teach online, right? So I don't get that same kind of connection. Like you sit in the same room, you're working together. Like
Yeah.
there's so much
It's
more
intimate.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's much easier to connect with children if you're present.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, it's easy to zone out and you just pick your nose and drool and flip the screen up and like, oh yeah. But yeah, how do you to wrap this up? Like, how do you do your job, your teaching gig at the same time as you're doing your football agent work?
So I guess I could take you through like a typical weekday and then
Yeah.
a weekend. Maybe that would be helpful
For all the aspiring football agents out there / teachers.
Yeah.
Want to deal with 15-year-olds cookie stealers.
She's like 11.
11, sorry.
Hopefully at 15 she's stealing more important things.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So honestly, usually I wake up and I play the first Celebreak match. And then maybe I
Awesome.
today I went to the beach after that. So that was really lucky. I
Lucky.
feel great to do that. But lucky, I mean, yes and no. Right?
Feeling blessed.
You
Instagramming, feeling
blessed. You create your own life as well, right? So there are certain things
Nice.
that I feel lucky for. I have a French and American passport. I'm white, male, grew up in a wealthy family, heterosexual. I've won the lottery, right? Like I'm not any better
Heterosexual.
than anyone.
Metrosexual? Did you say metrosexual?
That's you. I'm not gonna confuse. Don't project onto me
I
with
don't
those big
understand what the
biceps.
fuck that means. What does it mean, metrosexual?
Take it as a compliment.
I guess. Thanks.
But
So-
these things, right? I'm not. I don't believe I'm any better than anyone from that. I just pure luck, right? Like I really don't mean that. Like that's just winning the lottery. But then
Yeah.
all of these other things to have a dream and move to a different country with a different language, knowing no one. These things I'm really proud of. Like I because I'm still on my way, but this is all effort. Like and when I went back home for my sister's wedding, it was like I felt like an alien in a way. Like I just didn't relate to any of those people. And they're like, oh, everyone came up to me, oh, so what are you doing? You're a football agent, etc. And they're all working fucking boring finance jobs or something, right? They don't really care about what they're doing. They're making money and people admire you. But I always say, like, I'm not Superman. I'm not any better than any of you, right? I just took a fucking risk and I have the courage of my convictions. That's what I'm proud of.
Your sisters, like all these people that you met, they're Americans, right?
Yeah.
So they work 100 hours a week.
Yeah, probably, right? Yeah, so...
That's a lucky being here in Barcelona that you can actually enjoy.
Yeah, but is that lucky? Like my sister has a French passport; she could live here if she wanted to.
I mean,
right?
I think
right? That's
you
what
can
I mean,
choose.
right?
I
You have a
believe
choice.
you can choose
right?
to be lucky. It's a mindset.
Also,
It's a you can. I think the more you look for being lucky, and you're telling yourself, I'm lucky, I have all these things, and
Yeah.
as life goes on, as the day goes on, I find more things that I
Yes.
can consider like these are lucky points.
Yeah.
I get some blue sky today. Well, lucky. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe if you live in Stockholm or in I don't know New
Yeah.
York, you might not have
Well,
as
your
many.
environment
But
is
then you got to
important.
look for something else that makes
Yeah.
you feel
Yeah.
lucky, right?
Yeah.
Those people, maybe they're like, I'm lucky that I can work 100 hours a week and be happy with that.
Hmm. No,
Lucky.
you can train your mind, right? Like I do a 5-minute journal. Have you heard of this?
I heard about it.
So
You write a journal for 5 minutes.
you have three parts of it. First of all is, even if I don't do it all at once, when I wake up, well, usually if I on the way to football, for example, I write 1 minute. What are the three things that would make today great? So, for
Okay.
example, playing football, having dinner with my friend, and
Podcasting.
yeah, whatever, watching a football match. Like all the things are related to football, I guess. But, like
Oh, no.
whatever they want to be. And those, like, if you can accomplish one or two or all three of those, it's a fucking amazing day.
Yeah.
But you're already setting yourself up. You're already gearing your frame towards that.
Yeah. That's what you're
Okay?
looking for.
Yeah.
And
So right, as if you think about a red car, then you can find more red cars. Right? They said like the secret almost kind of mentality.
right.
And then the other part would be three. Maybe I'll do this later, huh? Even if I do it that day. Like today, I did it, but I haven't done the rest of it. So I'll try to do it the later today.
Well,
So the three things you're grateful about the previous day, and
Okay.
then you have affirmations about I am. So I am amazing, or whatever you want to do, beautiful or athletic. And now I have lots of things, right? Because I really believe I'm all these things. But I've been doing this for years, and you build up these things, and you really. And I meditate every day as well. I try to, even if it's walking meditation, you're not just necessarily waking up 20 minutes on a couch. Like, okay, that's possible. Make it work for you, right?
Yeah.
And have a consistent habit. And there's these things that now it's very, very, very small, but you really realize the difference. Like, wow, I'm really grateful right now for this moment. Really, and I mean that, right?
Yeah.
It could be the same moment as it was 5 years ago, but I wouldn't feel the same about it because I wouldn't be so present about it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be so appreciative because first of all, I set it up like, oh, I'm looking forward to this. And then like tomorrow I will be grateful for it. And then I can write more details about what was it specifically. So the more you're present, like that in the flow state, that's what makes you really grateful. And that makes you happier.
Yeah.
Right? Just small things. Or you're just walking around often on my phone. So I guess I'm guilty of that, but you're just like, oh, that's amazing. I never noticed that before. Right? Like that's beautiful. That's life. What is life? Like these are the moments that make it that. It's not the biggest stuff, right? It's these things. And if you can't appreciate the small things when you're wealthy, you never appreciate that stuff. That's not going to make you any happier.
Right.
Necessarily.
I mean, you're in that race to get wealthy, for example, and you haven't built up these little appreciating the day. And how are you going to add that later on to your life? I mean, you will probably not. You'll be in such high gears that you won't think that's even important.
Yeah.
Even putting it, you will know, like, oh, I should have done these things, but how do you do it? Too bored. Let's spend some money.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, I've never been poor in my life. 10 years ago, I made way more money. My sister's marrying a multimillionaire, but that does not make me any less happy. Like I would never trade my life for hers, and I don't mean that in just like, just a offhand comment. Like I really believe that I'm doing exactly what I want to do, whether it's difficult, it's challenging, it's lonely, sure, but I would not trade it for anything. And I really mean that because it gives me the amount of satisfaction because I'm so fulfilled in doing it. It's the doing of it, whether you get there or not. Hopefully you get there, right? Whatever that means, but maybe you can get to there. And then what do you do when you get there? Is it over? Well, you want to get somewhere else after, right? Or are you really satisfied and content with that?
Right.
Probably not. Then you go to another challenge. So it's not. It's the striving in and of itself that is the important aspect. And then okay, you want to go towards goals, but it's the act of also believing in a mission that's bigger than yourself. That's important. That's what motivates me.
And having some values that you wanna things that you wanna feel every day. Like you say, you wanna feel lucky. You wanna feel blessed. You wanna feel like you have great things happening every day, and that's something that you practice every day as well.
Right.
And next time, I would like to talk more about the meditation, like this walking meditation. I love to hear about meditations, but this
Yeah.
walking meditation, I want to hear more about it. I think it's. I remember when you told me about it last time. It's funny, but it doesn't, not in a disrespectful way. I think funny things are great. I would love to speak more about that next time.
Sure.
But yeah, so okay, what are some lessons that we can draw from this? What would you say? What if we can just conclude everything we talked about?
Well, I
follow
mean,
follow your passion,
Yeah.
your dream. I mean, you're very passionate about what you do, right? Follow your passion.
yeah.
And it will lead to a happier life
I,
in the
I,
long run.
I mean, this is what I've said to my students. I had them do this exercise. I've said it to random people at bars, to anyone. And I believe this. And I feel, well, life is about two things. What my friend told me once is about, first of all, finding out what you want to do.
Mm.
And then two, doing it. Most people are stuck at step one. I feel extremely lucky that when I was 11 years old, I had this very specific dream. Is it easy to accomplish? No. But I knew exactly, and I'm still doing that. So I wanted to be a football agent in Europe. That's what I am. Am I making multi-millions? Am I where I exactly want to be? No. Not necessarily.
But you're
but
practicing what you want
But
to.
fundamentally, that's what I am.
Right.
That is what I am.
Yeah,
right? So have I accomplished my goal? Yes, in a way.
In
I
a
don't
way.
feel like I'm
You're
completely
accomplishing
there
it every day, right?
right? But I'm living and breathing that.
Yeah.
And so that nothing could give me like more fulfillment in that. But the answer of this question of what would you do if you had $1 trillion right now, right in your hand, right now, you have that money in your hand. What do you do with that money, right? Like here it is.
I'd be like,
here it is, right? What do you do with that? That's all the cash. All the
Yeah.
cash. You don't need to teach anymore. You don't need to interview people like me. You don't need to build IKEA lights. What do you do with that money?
I'll probably sit here and do this awkward lift, like just lifting, Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would probably sit for a long time and just think what to do with it.
Because you can buy anything, right? Money doesn't matter.
I
Well,
think
people
it would be
would say,
paralyzed of options of things to do.
yeah. People say, okay, so these are common answers. Like, I would invest the money. No, you don't need to invest anything. It doesn't matter. Money does not exist, right? Anything you want at any time, you can have.
Yeah.
Oh, I would buy my mom a house, etc. I would go on vacation. Okay. But then what?
Yeah.
How many pina coladas can you drink?
I'd probably sit down
How many
and
five-star
meditate,
hotels,
like,
right?
like Buddha, just sit on a retreat for 40 years, figure out, letting that money go rot or something. I don't know. But yeah, okay.
So it's a thought exercise, right?
It's a
But
thought
the
exercise.
point of this is that that's what you should be doing. Why are you not doing it now? And I
Right.
wouldn't trade it. What I'm doing, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Really, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
So I think you got to find that. There's no right answer for everyone. And of course, this is a thought exercise. So maybe you need to adapt that, right? If you have kids, like maybe it's a little bit more difficult to do these things. But you can move in that direction of getting a little bit more of your passion.
You
That-
could
that's-
just
that's
hire
what-
some
that was what I would
teachers,
leave you
like
with.
your kids will have all these private teachers, like Dylan 1, Dylan 2, the Dylan. The Dylan. But yeah, I think that's a great lesson to draw from this. What would you like to do if you would have like $1 trillion or $1 million or whatever in your hand right now? What kind of thing would you pursue? You can choose. Many times we can choose much more than we think,
Yeah.
right?
We always have choices. Maybe we have bad choices, but we have choices.
And you can still, like, even though you might not materially have things manifested in front of you, you can still work towards your dream, right? Go towards that path and feel like you're living on that path every day. And things will happen.
Just got to take, one step. I mean, I started, I'm not everywhere I want to be, but nothing. I didn't know anyone here. I didn't know the language. Like nothing, zero. But
Espanol.
you have to try. Oh, there's this other thing about going back. We talk about Tim Ferriss and the podcasting, but and I did this before I went to Barcelona because I was working at the Apple store and I was waiting for them to transfer me to Barcelona, so at least I could have a job when I moved over here. In the end, basically, it was way too complicated. They were not helping me. and obviously I think everything happens for a reason. So it was, I just moved. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
I just did it anyways, and I figured it out. And then that's how I found this teaching company, for example. But he says there's 3 columns. Is it's like, well, the point being of what you don't do is just as important as what you do.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so what would be the worst thing what would be the worst possible things that could happen if for example I moved to Barcelona? Okay, well, I'm gonna have no friends. I'm not gonna know anywhere to play football. I'm not gonna find a place to live. I don't have a job. I don't know Spanish well enough. Things like that, right? All real like concerns.
Right.
Okay, so what could you do reasonably to overcome those things? Well, I could join meetup groups. I could find people to play football. I could go to a language exchange to improve my Spanish. I could apply to different jobs. I could be a bartender. Okay, all of these things. And it's like, even if all these things could do, what would be the things you could do to like undo these things? Well, I could, move back home if I really needed to.
Right.
I could take out money from my retirement.
Yep.
Savings. I could. So the point is, these are like the worst possible things. So we think about what the worst thing is going to be.
Yeah.
But usually that never happens. But even if it does, you can still undo things.
Yeah, you can still go back, right?
But the cost of inaction is usually more than the cost of acting.
Yeah.
And if you never take that leap, then I would still be in fucking Liverpool where I hated, and thinking, oh, what if?
Yeah.
Right. So you gotta take risks. You never know till you get there, and it's usually never as bad as you think. You create this whole story for yourself that you believe is fact, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
The only thing, like a therapist once told me this, I thought it was powerful. The only thing you can't undo in life, the only 2 things are life and death. Those are the only things. Right? You can get divorced. You can move.
Right.
You can change your job. You can start exercising. You can do another activity. There's everything. But if someone dies, okay, and you have a kid, those are things you can't undo. But everything else is completely changeable.
Right.
Might be more or less difficult, but you can change it. It's not the end of the world. Not everything is the end of the world. We try to make this like catastrophe. Oh no, if I lose my job or something, and it's really never that bad.
That's one thing that bothers me. I don't know, when people choose to just live a life that they've been sort of served in the way, I went to university, I took this degree, I learned these things in order to do this job, and it's because it's expected of me, I guess.
Live the life someone else wrote for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what my friend always says.
I go back to Sweden to see my family and friends, and not everybody, but some people are struggling. I mean, they live in that box. Most of the people we hang out with here in Barcelona, you come here to realize a dream. We all are living the dream here, our gang, right? But a lot of people in other countries or in Sweden, I'm sure even here,
the US, they just the same thing, right?
What's sort of expected from you, and it's a script, and you can see I can see that they have some admiration for me doing, like, I'm not making tons of money.
Right, it's not even as great as they think it is. Right, that's the funny part about it.
It's decent. It's all right. I know a lot of people in my age and younger, like their upper 20s, that make way more money. They're like super successful in what they're doing.
But what is successful, right? According to who? That's the whole point, I think, right?
Buying a fancy apartment, having a nice job, going on holidays all the time, and, getting married and like doing all these kind of things. Which I think it's great if that's what you really want, that,
right?
Awesome.
Not because someone else told you that you should want that. Yeah.
And I do have some of those students, for example, that are like that. I talk a lot about my students because that's how I get to meet a lot of people and get to know them in a very deep way as well. So I think that's awesome. But also there are these people that it's okay. You can do things differently. Okay, you studied medicine for 6 years. You know what? you can actually do something else. It's
Right.
all right.
It's okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You know,
You
And-
don't have to be part of an Indian family that follows everything that you're supposed to do, right?
you can become French and American if you want. Well, maybe not that easy. I don't know, but yeah, you can change things up, and who knows? Like, Steve Jobs said, he talked about this speech in when he went to
Stanford,
yeah, and he had this speech afterwards, way after, and he was talking about connecting the dots, right? At some point, you will start connecting the dots. They might all look random to you, but at some point, they will start to make sense. That's what it was for me with teaching as well. Studying languages for a long time. How do I make money with that? I don't know. How do you make, I don't want to be a translator. Should I get to be a spy? I mean, I want to have friends and have a social life. That's weird. I actually thought, like, maybe I can be a spy. It's silly, but just playing with the thought. Then, working with sales because it was expected of me from my family and from my surroundings, working with something that is generating a lot of money. I was not very happy with that. I learned a lot. I'm not saying anything bad about that, but I want to get into, I studied theater at high school. How am I going to make money with that? Everybody was like, you cannot expect much money from working with theater. Unless you become a superstar or big actor, and it was just reducing the chances of becoming anything within acting, or like, I have this sales thing going on that I'm not very happy about, but it's expected, and that's what I've done for a long time. But now I'm teaching, and I'm to make my students understand what I'm saying in Swedish, I can use a lot of the theatrics.
So it's useful.
It's useful.
Connecting the dots. You never know how, right?
I'm using exercises from theaters that we do in the classes.
So somehow you never know, but it still is helpful, right?
Yeah, and I think also the sales, like, the sales that I've learned is about the other person. It's not about me. I'm gonna present you this awesome thing. No, it's about asking questions. That's the sales that I've learned. Asking questions. What does your client, what does your customer want? You find out by asking them questions, and checking with them,
first.
listening. And then so you mentioned that this is important to you. Yeah. And that, and this, and that. Okay, awesome. What about we do this? Yeah, makes sense. I'm like, let's go.
Because you feel listened to again. Maybe that's a good theme as well to come back to.
Yeah.
People want to feel valued.
I want to feel valued.
And it sounds really simple, but most people don't listen. No, most people don't care about you, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's like a big.
Yeah.
Just to know that someone is there to listen to you. It's like sounds so stupid, but it's not. It's like the most powerful thing possible.
I think that's more than half of my job.
Yeah.
Really. Just having someone. I don't want to sit and teach them grammar. I like grammar. It's fun, but I want to speak. I want to hear about their life stories, their adventures, their things that they're doing, what excites them. The things that they are passionate about in life. Like, look, this is not a boring place where you're gonna just do another learning session. Let's talk about shit that we never talk about. Why not? Because why the fuck not? And we do. It's great. It's fun.
Well, that's the cool thing with language, because language, you can talk about anything.
Anything.
Right. It's
as long as it's just serving the purpose of learning the language.
Right.
Yeah, it's just great. I would never, ever think that this would turn, this job or this opportunity would come to me like this and make me happy. So
that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, man. Fellow teacher.
Yes. It takes one to know one.
Awesome, man. It's late. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Dylan, you're the man. This is awesome. Next time, let's talk more about meditation. We can talk more about football as well. I think there's so much more. I'm curious about football. I want to know how it integrates with jiu-jitsu as well. So let's keep that for...
Sure, I don't know anything about jiu-jitsu, but I'm interested in it as well.
Yeah, so we can, intermingle these kind of disciplines maybe and learn things. Just talking about it. And practicing, maybe we play and and get some juice as well. Dude, let's get some food.
All right. Sounds
All right.
good.
Thanks, bro.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Say something in
It's been
French. Come on.
Merci beaucoup. À la prochaine.
Merci beaucoup. Mange.
On va manger maintenant.
Ah, mange maintenant.
We're going to eat now.
Let's go eat.
Yeah. Bon appétit.
Bon
There you go.
appetit.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Okay, let's turn this off.